Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live. And I am in Rome, Italy, and have been here for some time. First, a couple of days working with the Iranian organization and organizations, but the main organization being the MEK, that is the main dissident organization in Iran, with the NCRI, which brings together all of the others. They kind of encompass all of the ones that have been in the protests, creating uh, the the entire organizing the entire population. Yeah, remember, Iran is not just Tehran. We basically see only Tehran, although we did see some of the other cities during that terrible funeral for one of the most evil men in the last century and in this century. During the funeral, killed Donald Trump. The terrible situation in Iran, of course, that started with the two soldiers that were killed in Jordan by an Iranian attack, and then the soldier who was killed and the one injured from the working with the bomb, trying to neutralize the bomb that was detonated. That died during the attack on it was, let's see if I put this correct. It was the Muwafaq Salty Air Base in Jordan, and the two soldiers were both very young and at the beginning of their lives. Ferdinand Tyler James Feehan, 25, from Ewa Beach, Hawaii. He was assigned to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and of course was there in Jordan. He died from Iranian missile strike on the base in Jordan. The other tragedy was Private Isabella Gonzalez, only 19, from Carrollton, Texas. She was stationed in Ansbach, Germany, and she was killed in the same attack as Lieutenant Feehan. And the third U.S. service member was killed in Iraq while conducting a controlled detonation of a downloaded Iranian drone. And his name has not been released. That brings to 17 the number dead. There is another service member missing, and they fear that he. Well, let's see what happened. Let's see what happens. So let's just sort of summarize this. Well, first, let's just stop for a moment and say a prayer for Private Isabella Gonzalez and First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan. For, dear God, please bring some degree of peace to their families so that they can live with this terrible loss that shouldn't happen to families ever, but does, and with the knowledge that their loved ones, their members of our military died as very, very special Americans, very special heroes in the real sense of the word, people who were defending America from the reality that this regime of terror, if allowed to continue, will kill thousands and thousands of more Americans as they have in the past. So they gave their lives to save lives. And when this is over, and it will be, and the regime of terror has been has been consigned, as they say, to the dustbin of history. These names will be shining lights as those who saved us and as an example to our young people as to the way they should conduct their lives. And the same, of course, for the soldier who lost his life attempting to neutralize that bomb. We'll give you his name when we have it. But again, dear God, take care of their families. We know your angels have delivered them to you, and they will have very, very special place in heaven. But their families are the ones that are going to live with this forever and try to make it as possible as it can be. May they rest in peace. Amen. So the president continued his large-scale strikes unabated, really, and they were being conducted partly in honor of these brave Americans. There's also an additional American who's still missing, and unidentified remains were reportedly being examined. I don't know if they did or they didn't. Over this period of time, the 10th being the 20th, we've been hitting up and down the strait, hitting the military command centers, the communications in the interior. We've been hitting coastal surveillance sites, and we've been hitting air defense sites, starting to hit them in the interior. We've also done a certain amount, destroyed a certain number of energy facilities. The president has, I don't know that he's promised explicitly, he said, and as far as I can tell, they're actually beginning that process that they're going to vividly take out all of Iran's energy. They're also going to destroy all their bridges and really make the regime of terror completely useless, so that they can be overtaken, I would say, by a very, very beleaguered but brave population that stood up against them in those protests in January. And they've now killed 40,000 of them. They're executing them every day. And the largest number are the members of the Mujahideen al-Khalq, who are and have been for the last 40 years slaughtered by the regime, well over 100,000 of them. All the names registered, their pictures available. So again, we take a moment, pray for those that we lost, pray for those that are in danger, and pray that this comes to a quick and very, very, very conclusive ending. This has to be a complete annihilation of this regime, because this will just continue. If you last week, I was here with the Iranian opposition, and we're going to have Reza Jeff Sardari, who was with me, and is their American representative, on in a moment. Not in a moment, I guess in about 15 minutes. But since I am in Europe, I took occasion today to get a group of a couple of newspapers to see what how they're doing it, and then the New York Times, that I've always thought was worse than. And the front page of Le Monde, French, is the main article of the day is La France entre sidération et inquiétude. Basically, France is in an uproar. And why is it in an uproar? Because they are boiling to death. They don't have air conditioning in France. They have a little bit more than England, which is not very much, and a lot less than Italy, where I am. I think the percentage for France is about 14, 15, 18% air conditioned. In England, it's less than that. In Italy, it's about 45%. In the United States, it's 98. And the French are very, very upset about this and about their government not doing anything about this. And of course, there's no mention in here that Le Monde is partially responsible for its outrageous and irresponsible support for climate change and the ridiculous things that were done in the name of climate change, which we weren't going to change one way or the other by what we did, mere mortals here on Earth. And what we should have done is what is being done now in intelligent places and was recommended by, is it Lars Lornberg? I think that's it. It was recommended by the Swedish scientist who very early on wrote best-selling books and was castigated, saying that climate change, that his best estimate was that climate change was going on, that climate change has been going on since eternity, and that it would continue to go on, and that human conduct maybe can affect it, but if it does, it's not the main factor. We're not that big a part of this universe to be able to do that. And he said the wiser thing to do, since no matter what you do, you're not going to reverse it. The major thing to do is to take all that money that you're wasting on things that are useless. Turns out that the whole thing with carbon may have been absolutely just, this is all done to steal your money, to take your money, and to move us closer and closer into a one-state world. Oh, by the way, as prescribed by Karl Marx in 1850 and as carried out by Klaus Schwab, now disgraced former head of the World Economic Forum, and people like Al Gore. Didn't Al Gore tell us we were going to be destroyed by 2010? And that poor girl from Sweden, who's also predicted the end of the world 3 times, and now runs around trying to harass Israel and support the murderers and animals from Hamas. This is the reason. Hey, French people, the reason is that you went so damn green. You didn't put air conditioners in. I mean, even here, the air conditioning, boy, to get them to put it on. Whew. But at least it's 40 to 50%, which is ridiculous, of course. Then they have a rather glowing piece about Andy Burnham, the new ridiculously idiotic left-wing socialist, totally unprepared Prime Minister of England. And they do not have on the front page any criticism of President Trump, which every American newspaper almost had a day, sometimes 3, 4 articles. They do, however, do the best they can to la réputation tournée di Gianni Infantino, l'image du patron de la FIFA était écornée par ses liens avec Donald Trump et ses gestions du cas Balagoon. They're saying that his reputation has been destroyed by his liaison with Donald Trump and the situation with the American player Balagoon when the suspension, the red card, second game suspension after he was thrown out for the remainder of the game, and America had to play with one less player, as they did again yesterday in what was an outrageous call. They're saying it ruined his reputation because he was involved with Trump. But then it says they're going to have a re-election for the president of FIFA, and he's a shoe. He's, um, Corriere della Sera is the Italian newspaper. Again, the front page, I do not think, let me check it out carefully. I'm surprised. Often there's a criticism of Trump, but there isn't. I'm telling you, these newspapers in Europe are just as irresponsible, just as crazy, just as nutty, and on climate change have ruined the continent. But they're not as viciously false or idiotic as the Times, which you're going to see in a minute. The front page here is talking about a murder that took place in Italy, the World Cup, the war in Ukraine, and recognizing the anniversary of the death of Judge Borsellino, which is covered beautifully. Judge Borsellino and Judge Falcone were two judges. Now in Italy, judges they were magistrate judges, and they're different. This is a different system than in America. This is what we call you might call it the Napoleon or the Roman system. This is a bit of Roman law, and rather than having a grand jury, a mixture between a judge and a law enforcement officer. The magistrate is like the leader of the investigation. And then he gathers all the, let's say with a murder, he gathers all the facts. The magistrate makes a determination as to whether you're going to be charged with murder or with whatever. So two of the people that I work with, mostly, there were others, but these were the two main ones, was Judge Borsellino and Judge Falcone. And this the 35th anniversary of his death. He died, oh my goodness. He died on July 19th. There are pictures here, which I remember was yesterday of the actual murder scene. The only thing I can say about these two assassinations of Judge Falcone and Judge Borsellino is they really did really a good job of cleaning up Sicily, and not completely moving the mafia, but reducing them to a much more normal status for a criminal gang. Back in subsequent years, the organized crime, both in Calabria, which is back on the island, just with a small separating it from Calabria. Calabria is about the southernmost point on the continental Italy. The organized crime group there is probably the worst now. One in Naples called Draga was at various times fierce and terrible and very difficult. Tremendous control of the garbage industry and of the town of Naples. A lot of that has been cleaned up. Calabria is still behind. You should know a number of years ago, I remember exactly how far back this is. I went to go to Sicily, to the people I had worked with and known, and the Italian government not to do it. And just out of last night, I had Italian television on, and it was a documentary about America. In fact, one man called me Carlo Giuliani. Uh, the work that I had done in helping them prosecute over 1,000 mafia members here in Italy. I know people know in America the ones I did in America, but I don't think they know that I spent time here. So helping them as they help me. Financial Times. And the Financial Times has a very interesting article. They are also very critical of the president all the time. But I don't see anything on the front page. Telecom, Italy, maybe in these short little things here. Bumpy ride, U.S. lawyers. So law firms that struck deals with Trump are heading for a second high-stake conflicts after the government demanded their leaders sit for deposition and yield up communications. I guess the Justice Department, if there was a conspiracy to destroy my civil rights and 400 or 500 of my colleagues, particularly in indicting me twice for things that I didn't do, both of which have now been done away with without any proof from them. But in any event, the White House is preparing to roll out a spate of grants in Europe to support MAGA-aligned projects as it pursues an overhaul of U.S. foreign aid priorities and aims to bolster freedom of speech. This is an epidemic in England where people are in jail for criticizing anything that the crazy, nutty left criticize Mohammed, like I do sometimes on this show. They'll put you in jail in England, which people are predicting, and you'll be an Islamic empire. And then the major story is very interesting, and it gives you an idea of how Europe has fallen apart. The Western Europeans, France, Italy, main ones, right, have been enormously have been pressuring Trump from the very beginning to support Ukraine. And we certainly have done more than well, maybe them combined, but we've done more than. And I think the Ukrainians will tell you that. Maybe not enough from their point of view, but more than anyone else. Recently, a very important decision to make sure that they had that they more effectively against what has become much more intense Russian attacks on Kyiv and their other cities. By the same token, they are doing quite a job of attacking. I mean, yesterday they had their biggest attack right outside Moscow, meaning the Ukraine on the Russians. In the middle of this, and of course, there's a big debate going on that Lindsey Graham was was just coming back to argue before, tragically, he died, which is for our providing aid, substantial more aid to Ukraine so they can finish the job. And there seems to be bipartisan support for it. And it seems to me the president supports it. He's let the Congress sort of work it out. But I can't say for sure because there may be things he's negotiating for. But he did do one thing that was of tremendous importance. He agreed with Zelensky that we would provide them. They'd be able to buy from us and provide them. We build the F-35. We build it together. Now we'd start doing it right away. And that was a major breakthrough for them. And so, but here's what's happening in Europe. It's really, the EU is collapse and support for new economic sanctions targeting Russia, as national capitals refuse to back measures that could damage their corporate champions. Diplomats have warned, in a trend that could endanger a four-year strategy in support of Ukraine. A series of countries, France, Italy, Germany, Austria, and Portugal, have all demanded from the latest set of sanctions drawn up by Brussels, or have blocked proposed measures entirely. Basically, these are carve-outs. Russia is doing business with them. And they're complaining about us. And Ukraine is on their continent, not in America. I mean, all it adds to is what I'm going to come back with, which is a feeling that Europe, Western Europe, which I've thought for quite some time, has been consigned to history and is deteriorating. It's physically deteriorating. We were in Athens recently, seeing Paris. These cities and these countries are behind us in almost every way, and they're getting Paris and Rome, both beautiful cities in different ways. Ugly graffiti. Now, in Paris, they've had. In Rome, it was a shock to me to see graffiti that are 2,500 years old. What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They've completely turned against the civilization that they helped give us. And we are now West Asia. They've done it in terms of morals, and they've done it in terms of just general practice in the way in which you conduct yourself. Cities are becoming kind of ugly. Homelessness at the Vatican. Vatican yesterday to the side of the Vatican where for the Sunday solemn mass, there were two very unfortunate people, a younger man and an older woman that apparently had slept there overnight. And it looked like it was their encampment. I thought, well, just one. Then we walked around a bit. It was all over the place at the Vatican. And then then when you become aware of it and you go around Rome, there's more of it, and the graffiti. So now it's worse and worse. On the front, this is the international edition, so I don't know what kind of craziness to have on their American edition, but this is their international edition. In their main column, which I think is the one over here for the Times, they praise the communist Andy Burnham as the king of the North, the mayor of Manchester, who now has become the prime minister and is left of Stearman. And it's just going to, I mean, as far as I can, he'll make and maybe accelerate the predicted date of 2040 when they become, or whatever you call the head one of those religious empires, or maybe somebody else. I mean, he is the head of the Church of England, which I don't think anybody people still go like King. It's going to really go, and Charles didn't, but he did give a Ramadan message. So maybe he's getting himself here. The New York Times says the president is abusing the power to declassify America's secrets. What's that? The president last week, if you remember, gave a speech, and in the speech, he released CIA documents that show that China, unequivocally show, that China interfered in the 2020 election and that their favorite candidate was Joe Biden and wanted to defeat Donald J. Trump. Well, they go on to say that this was terrible. Mr. Trump said that his goal was to rebuild trust in elections. But he put out all these things that show that the Chinese interfered in the election. They say he exaggerated and he lied about it, and he lied about the significance of it. But in fact, it did take place. And people should make up their own minds about how significant or insignificant it was. Isn't it just the opposite, communists? Isn't it just the opposite? You fools. Not only are you communists, but you're stupid. How are you undermining the integrity of an election when you bring out the truth about it? I mean, there are these documents that go back and were hidden. Oh, these were discounted by the intelligence experts in 2020. That's the same 51 spies who lied. According to them, Trump and I were Russian agents. That proved to be untrue. And I don't know if they ever apologized about it, but the Times kind of did. The Times was printed, a story that said it wasn't true. And these guys are slimebags, these 51. And they're all the top CIA people. And they're going to tell the truth about China. I mean, half of them like China better than America, I think, given the way in which they conduct Chinese relations. First president to really represent America against China was Donald Trump. And he still does. Don't get fooled by that. Oh, Xi Jinping's my friend and Putin's my friend. Yeah. He's got to talk to them. He's got to deal with them. But he has slammed China more than any American president, all of them combined. Same with Russia when he has to. So, Mr. President, keep putting out the facts and let us decide. In fact, thank you, because the stuff that was put out to Senator Grassley's committee vindicated me and Professor and Mike Lindell on our claims about the election. Thank you. The Senator Grassley, which shows them spying on administration, spying on communications between the White House and members of Congress, included communications with me. I'm not a member of Congress. What was I when they were spying on me? I was Donald Trump's personal lawyer. You know what they call that? They call that a violation of attorney-client privilege. Otherwise, a violation of civil rights. They also destroyed my law practice by executing a search warrant that went nowhere. A search warrant that ended up with an admission to a grand jury 13 months later. There was no probable cause to bring any charges against Giuliani, which meant there were no probable cause to search me. But the Times are like that, all covered up. He's a scoundrel for bringing it out. That's the International Times. That kind of fits in with these guys. Point is, they're just as bad in Europe as they are in the United States. These newspapers are uniformly a part of the communist push to try to take over not only America, but the West, and to destroy the great, great contribution of Rome. And that is the Western civilization, not alone, along with Greece and the Jews and both Eastern and Western Catholicism and Christianity of the Middle Ages, who preserved our literature unlike any other. The glories of the Renaissance, a lot of it taken, but all over Europe. The Protestant Reformation, which, whether you theologically agree with it or not, certainly did deal with abuses of the Roman Catholic Church that had to be and were an nation of the Roman Catholic Church. The Enlightenment, and of course all of the philosophy going back to Aristotle and Plato and Socrates and Thomas Aquinas and Saint Augustine of Hippo, and that led to the brilliance of the Declaration of Independence that we celebrate. That's what we mean by Western civilization. And then this nation in America now. I mean, I've been to Europe. I've done more than 200 foreign trips, probably heavier. The place is falling apart. I mean, if somebody doesn't step, this is going to be a hellhole. Not Eastern, please, not Eastern Europe. Maybe that's what we got to preserve, Western civilization with Eastern Europe. I mean, they're part of Western civilization. They're just called Eastern Europe. Poland is certainly a bigger part of Western civilization than anybody.
That's right, Mayor. Big job. Well, Mayor, I was thinking maybe we'll take a quick break and come back with our friend Ali Reza.
Yeah, I'm with you, absolutely. Good.
So we'll be right back after these short messages.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Yeah, now we're back with Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Welcome back to my palatial, what do they call them in Rome? Palazzo, my palazzo in Rome. No, really, it isn't all that. It is beautiful though. Maybe if I can, I'm going to show you what the ceiling looks like at the end so I don't mess this thing up, because I'll never get it just right for Ted. He'll be so angry at me. He'll be saying, you need more, you need less headspace. Move to the right, move to the left, move down like this. It doesn't work, Ted. You know, no matter where I am, I can still talk. So let's go to my fellow traveler who abandoned me here in Rome for the weekend, Ali Reza, Jeff Sodati. You look good for a man who traveled across the ocean.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly did not intend to abandon you in Rome. We had a great time being in your company in the 2-3 days of the tremendous event that you were part of it. You created waves in Rome. All the major media reported about your presence in Rome. You were part of a great conference, official conference at the Italian Parliament, where Mrs. Rajavi, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, spoke. And that event was tremendous. It was opened by the head of the parliament, and so many other parliamentarians, senators attended that. You had a tremendous speech at that event, complimenting what Mrs. Rajavi said. She talked about the prospect for change in Iran, and that the people of Iran are ready for change. There is an organized force capable of bringing down the regime. There is a platform. There is a provisional government in place. All we need to do is get Europe and the United States to line up all their vectors in supporting this resistance. There's no need for arms or boots on the ground or appropriation of money. Policy has to be right. And then you also talked yourself about the possibility for change and how the obstacles for change must be removed. You highlighted about your own experience there with the movement for over the past 16 years. Everyone was so eager to hear from you, including the head of the parliament, who was sitting the whole time, not just opening the event, but listening to Mrs. Rajavi, to you and other speakers, when you also talked about the obstacles for change, including the remnants of the Shah's dictatorship, the son of the Shah, who acts as the obstacle, not a facilitator. So that was a big success. And then you also spoke before a large crowd of Iranians who were basically having a big rally in support of a free Iran. And then you also the next day spoke at a major think tank in Rome, along with the others, highlighting what policy in Europe should be in line with the United States. Everyone has the opportunity to help bringing about change in Iran. So that was a major success, a lot of media coverage. Newsmax actually had a sit-down interview with you They also reported about all of these conferences. Corriere della Sera, which is the main paper in Italy, had a separate interview with you, and they had a big story in their paper. Various TV channels in Italy, the 24/7 news channel, Rai 24, the Channel 1, and other television channels in Italy, they covered it. So it was quite an accomplishment. And I wish I could stay longer with you, Mayor, but I had to fly back to Paris because some other events are shaping up in Paris. I had to be here. But I must say that clearly the Italians love you, and they were very eager to see what you had to say. So big success for your trip.
Well, please mention the fact that the Italian government now, going back a decade, has been very, very supportive. I remember when we were refuge for the people of Ashraf were being killed by Iran. It took, and understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do. It's strange. In many ways, I'm criticizing Europe being like 10 years behind us in so many things. However, in understanding the significance of what's going on inside Iran, they seem to have picked it up faster than we have. Or maybe the Iranian counter propaganda hasn't been as effective here. But you have pretty much bipartisan, if you call it that here in Italy, support with the Italian parliament and government. It's just a question of the intent is antagonistic. And I realize this is an American expression when I talking about, but you're the only game, and there's no other group that could run Iran. And I think I think we did get our point across in a way that made them confident of something they knew, but they had to be reassured by talking to Madam Rajavi that MBK, NCRI has been ready to run Iran for 35 years. You've got the people, you got it in place. You've got a 10-point program, which assures a democratic republic, very similar to our Bill of Rights, our separation of powers. The only thing is you emphasize a few rights a little bit more because you've been such victims, like women's rights. And so it seemed to me that they are very comfortable with the idea, if we can overthrow this regime, then the question always becomes, is it going to be worse? Is we can go from bad to worse, that we're going to go from bad to very good. It's going to be a very exceptional situation where we have a ready-made transition operation, 6 months and an election, and people choose who they want, and everybody that MBK and NCRI has brought in, all of us who have been advising, we all go away, and whoever they select runs the government. And that's what we want. There's nobody here who wants money, wants power, wants any of that stuff that usually destroys these things. It's a beautiful thing to see. Great organization. And I told Madam Rajavi that she did me a favor when she asked me to join 17 years ago, 16 years ago. It's been some of the best work that I've done, that I'm proudest of. And I think people don't realize how this would be. Nothing is ever seamless like this, but this would be as close to seamless as these things ever are. The people who have been critics, who are legitimate critics, let's say, because you got a lot of critics that are just propaganda people. They're either communists or they're supporters of that phony son of the Shah, or then you have people like doubters and people who don't know. prepared. What do you think, Alireza?
Well,
Are we
absolutely,
still
Mayor.
communicating?
Yes, I think you're absolutely correct because things don't just happen by themselves. You got to work for it, and this is what has happened with this movement. This is the movement that if they wanted to get power and money and positions, they could have gotten it day one when the mullahs came to power. They invited this movement to collaborate with the mullahs. They rejected that. They paid a huge price for that. This movement, Mrs. Rajavi, the whole movement, never endorsed the Ayatollahs. To the contrary, they highlighted the problems with the regime, what their agenda, their platform, their everything, and so they fought for these principles over 4 decades. The 10-point platform that you highlighted calls for ballot boxes being the only criteria for legitimacy, separation of religion and state, gender equality, freedom of religion, freedom of political parties, free market economy, ending the Sharia law, ending the death penalty that is being used to take revenge, supporting the environment, protecting the rights of the minorities and the nationalities in Iran, and calling for a non-nuclear republic form of a government while supporting peace in the region. And each of those items is not just something you put on paper. These are things that this movement has done it itself. When we talk about gender equality, you mentioned that you have women in the leadership in large numbers everywhere in the movement. The movement itself is headed by a very capable woman, Mrs. Mariam Rajavi. So all of that, the price has already been paid. And that's why, as you correctly said, Mayor, Europe is increasingly getting supportive because, Mrs. Rajavi is here, she travels, and she has gone through a lot of ups and downs because a lot of these countries want to cut a deal with Tehran. They want to, appease the Iranian regime and trying to see if they can get a better, economic relations. So always that interest is acting as an obstacle. But I think now the whole world has realized that the single party that really wants war is the Iranian regime. They have no interest in
Yeah, I
ending
mean,
the
they made
war
it. I
or
mean, I think
peace.
the president's strategy has really brought that out. He's gone the line, including the MOU. That, by the way, you and the MEK very surprised. People supported that. The president was
Absolutely,
surprised. You
absolutely. Mrs. Raji welcomed the MIU.
realize you want peace. You've always wanted peace. If it could, you'd like to see a peaceful transition. These people are such brutal murderers that, unfortunately, is the way it is true with all dictators. They're among the worst. I mean, I don't think people realize, with regard to women's rights, they probably are the worst in the world, in
By far.
particular. The Nazis killed everybody, right? All the Jewish people, all the Orthodox, but just women, they are absolutely the worst. They torture women. A little bit of hair, you get killed. And amazing how many young people, particularly of Armenian descent. So when I was in the hospital, you were kind enough to, Mrs. Rajavi, and to be so solicitous. Nurses, second generation Iranian.
Oh.
And she started talking to me about it. She remembered seeing me when I was a little girl, 10 years on TV, and she remembered one of my speeches, and she had some notes from it. Her just have been tortured, Ayatollah. But they're kind of, I relate with it. One of my grandparents left in 1884. The latest one was about 1905. So we're talking, over 100 years of separation. Hers was a little sooner than that, but she was into America. So she's into a second generation. But they still, value their Persian background. It's very, very knowledgeable as well as Iranian history. About the horror of the Shah. I'd have to say to her, wouldn't it be ridiculous? They had a dictator in charge. She told me, but look at all the ones we put on TV.
Actually, a lot of them welcomed you, Mayor, when you were speaking before a very large crowd in Rome, also in the parliament, at the think tank. A lot of young people, boys and girls, many of them weren't even born in Iran, or their parents were born in Iran, but they feel that they want to see an Iran that is part of the nations, international community, that will be seen as a center of peace and tranquility. And our history has been like that, contributing to the progress of the world rather than being the epicenter of war and terror as it is now under the mullahs. And that's why people, Iranians from all ages, whether those who were born under the Shah, those who were born under the Ayatollahs, or those who were born in the United States and Europe, they all have a common interest to see a free Iran, a democratic Iran, an Iran where the vote of the people would count. Exactly. And
much
imagine,
larger
Mayor,
group than people realize. When I would tell people, when I would come to Paris in late June, early July, a big conference, that there were 100,000, 120,000 people. I was lying. Almost, it really was 100,000, but and then disgracefully, the French government stopped you from having, which would have been never ever conducted. MEK has conducted thousands of rallies all over the world. You've never had violence of any kind, except against you.
absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely,
the ones in Washington. Well, Ali Reza, it was a great conference. We have a lot of things we have to talking.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you
Reza.
very much. God bless you, Mayor. Keep up the big fight. Keep up the great spirit and the positive energy that you give to everyone in every single minute of your show.
I will.
Keep up the big fight. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. They're real patriot. I'm talking about a patriot of America and a patriot of Iran, and the two come together. That's just that in what they want to do, and I can't tell you how important it is that you learn more about them and spread the word about them. This is a group of people that I'm telling you, the day after those bombs are thrown out, and they'll be part of. Remember, they attacked the palace of the Ayatollah 5 days before we killed him, and lost 100 people. But they killed multiple numbers of IRGC that were guarding him. The years have been intrepid in their fight for freedom, and with a special emphasis on the rights of women, because you need it because of the horrible things that have been done to women in Iran. So keep this in mind. This is something that doesn't get enough attention. There's an article. It's really a transcript of a podcast by Victor Davis Hanson, in which he talks about what is going to happen. And look, none of us know for sure, and this is as good a prediction of how this is going to go down as anything else. And basically, what he says is that it is now, he thinks the die is cast, that basically Iran will become inert. It'll be incapable of doing anything, which will make it impossible for the significant number of people in the population. With the MEK is the active force, and they are soldiers and as well as political people and academics, and but this is the way regimes fall. The people, the French Revolution, the people throw the king out, and that's why a king won't come back. So, some piece of good news before we close out, and that is that the edge between Democrats and Republicans in the very, very famous generic ballot that they take about congressional elections, which had been a margin of about 5, to a margin of now 3, which is almost within the margin of error. And not only that, and I think it is, but in any event, this is the margin that we're usually at when we win. They're usually 2 or 3 points ahead in the generic ballot when we go into the general elections. But in any event, this is a far cry from there's going to be a Democratic overwhelming victory in November. And I can't tell you. Well, I'll look into this because I just got this. I'll look into this to see in the backup of it, what are the issues that have pushed it closer together. I have a feeling that it's all these terrible candidates that they're running, like the Plattner pervert up in Maine, and these communists who hate America. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the people that they're running would never been able to run for office in America when it was a solid moral country that believed in what our founding fathers taught us, and wasn't driven by a party that embraces Jewish hatred, that embraces dependency, that embraces open borders and defends criminals over innocent people. I mean, who can... Look, the candidate for the U.S. Senate in Michigan, Abdul El Sayed, is in favor of not only defunding the police, but disarming them. Policemen don't need guns. That's not unusual. That's not unusual. And if you listen to maybe a dozen of them, it's straight communist dogma. I mean, they don't even make any bones about it. Well, we're going to be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow at I've got to get times right, because one of these guys are going to come on at the wrong time. I almost came on an hour early today. So we'll be on at 4 o'clock on Lindell TV with the Rudy Giuliani show. Then we'll be on at 5 o'clock, right where we are right now. And tomorrow night, I'm going to organize it so I give you some of my pictures of Rome, both my tourist pictures. Maybe we'll separate the two, my tourist pictures and then my serious pictures, like about the homelessness and the graffiti and some of the real problems they have here. Because they do. This, I'm telling you, London, Paris, Rome, and many of the cities in Germany are way behind us. And you can feel it. You can just feel it. I mean, the efficiency isn't there. And as a mayor, I can tell you the condition of the city after about 5 minutes of walking through it. And this city is suffering, and it's going that way. Not as fast. And not as fast. Paris and maybe London leads the pack down that way. They lead the pack in people boiling to death, too. They didn't have any air conditioning. They couldn't afford it with all the communist money they spent. So pray for the people of Ukraine. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Iran, who we've been talking about, these great, great people. Wait till you see what kind of country that's going to be. It'll be enormously exciting. Great people. Pray for our people, of course. And pray for our great president. Keep him healthy and safe with all of the people that want him in. It's terrible. Both of his credibility and suasion and leadership and his very life. And all he's really trying to do is to straighten out and save. Well, all he's trying to do is save Western civilization. That's a big job. But that he's the man for it. And you're the people to follow him and help him. So, Ted, we'll be back tomorrow night.
That's right.
We'll have some real inside information about Rome. I've been trying to put it together so I can show you some of the things
Yeah, send me
that
the
you're missing if
pictures
you don't
and
come here,
videos,
the
please.
good things and the bad things. And then some insight into what the heck. I think we'll know a little better what's going to happen in Iran, because very, very soon we're going to make a shift toward this idea of disabling the country completely, if it hasn't started already. Well, God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply